What happens when a military leader fires top officers? When Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso dismissed two high-ranking officers for not showing up for work, the official line was clear. They were absent for 6 days. And in a military that's already stretched thin, that kind of negligence isn't acceptable. But the world is saying, in a country that's seen more coups than peaceful transitions of power, why does discipline matter? What is Traore trying to prove? Let's find out. Starting with, why did Captain Ibrahim Traore dismiss two top officers? When two top military officers go missing for 6 days in a country facing active insurgencies, that's not just a day off, it's a full-blown dereliction of duty. But why did Captain Ibrahim Traore fire the commanders? The official story is about discipline. The real story? It's about control, loyalty, and Traore's vision for the future of Burkina Faso.
A weak government, desperate to show its strength. Days after a failed coup attempt, a demonstration of support to mark a year since the military took power in Burkina Faso.
The instigators of the coup will have to walk over our dead bodies first.
On Tuesday, pro-government protesters taking to the streets of Ouagadougou after being awoken to sound of gunfire from several military camps.
First, let's take a closer look at the roles these two men played. One commander was responsible for logistics, essentially the heartbeat of any military operation. His absence wasn't just an inconvenience, it could have disrupted critical supplies and coordination for troops on the front lines. Meanwhile, Commander Bel Mamadi led ground troops. When your nation is under constant threat from terrorists, your ground leaders are the ones who should never be out of sight. Their disappearance wasn't just a violation of military protocol, it was a slap in the face to Traore's entire administration. But let's be real, this isn't just about punishing a couple of officers who forgot to punch in. This is about sending a message to everyone in the military. Loyalty to Traore is non-negotiable. When you take over a country through a military coup, your biggest allies and your biggest threats are the men in uniform. Every officer, from the generals to the grunts, is a potential kingmaker or kingbreaker. Traore knows this all too well. So, what better way to remind everyone who's in charge than by making an example out of two top officers? It's a calculated move that shows Traore is serious about military discipline, but even more serious about his grip on power. By firing them, he's cutting off any potential dissenters before they have a chance to gather support. There's also the psychological angle. Traore wants to instill a culture of accountability, but more importantly, fear. Not fear in the traditional sense, but the kind that makes everyone in the ranks think twice before crossing him. And let's be honest, in Burkina Faso, where the military has historically been a political power broker, keeping the officers in check is paramount to survival. In short, Traore didn't fire these officers just because they didn't show up for work. He did it to show everyone else in the military that if they're not all in, they're out, permanently. But whenever a military leader starts cracking down on high-ranking officers, the inevitable question arises, is this about discipline or is this just another power grab? In the case of Captain Ibrahim Traore, it's tempting to think it's both. After all, Traore didn't rise to power by playing nice, he took control in a coup. And in Burkina Faso, a country where military coups seem almost as common as elections, anyone in power has to be constantly looking over their shoulder. Let's not kid ourselves. Traore's dismissal of two senior officers is not just about setting a disciplinary precedent. It's about reinforcing his authority over a military that could very well turn on him tomorrow if he's not careful. Dismissing officers like Ouedraogo Seo and Bel Mamadi is a signal to the rest of the military. You're either with me or you're not. There's no middle ground. Traore knows that maintaining control over the military is the key to staying in power. If his officers start questioning his decisions, or worse, if they begin to see him as weak or indecisive, his days could be numbered. And let's face it, Burkina Faso is a country that's seen too many leaders fall from grace because they didn't keep their military in check. Just ask his predecessor, President Deba. But is this a power grab, or is it just smart governance? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video, and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. If you're Traore, you'd argue that it's the latter. In his mind, he's simply ensuring that the military stays disciplined, unified, and loyal. But the truth is that in a country like Burkina Faso, where the military holds significant sway over political power, every move Traore makes has to be calculated. Firing these officers isn't just about keeping the troops in line, it's about survival. This brings us to a larger question. Can Traore afford not to make these kinds of moves? The answer is no. In Burkina Faso, where instability is the norm and insurgents are a constant threat, any sign of weakness could be the end of his regime. Traore understands this all too well, and his actions reflect a leader who is not just trying to govern, but trying to survive in a very dangerous political landscape. So yes, in a way, this is a power grab, but it's also a necessary one. Traore isn't just tightening his grip on power for the sake of it. He's doing it because in Burkina Faso, if you're not in control, you're out. And in a country where coups are practically a way of life, you can't afford to be out. Military discipline is important, sure, but leadership? In Africa, leadership is everything. Without it, even the most powerful military force becomes just a group of individuals holding guns. In Burkina Faso, where terrorist insurgencies threaten the very survival of the nation, the need for strong, cohesive African military leadership is paramount. What happens when that leadership starts to crack? The entire African fight for self-determination and unity is at risk. Captain Ibrahim Traore's dismissal of 2 high-ranking officers, men responsible for logistics and ground operations, has raised concerns. These weren't just foot soldiers taking a day off. These were key players, holding positions critical to the nation's defense. Their absence didn't just create a void in the chain of command, it potentially compromised Burkina Faso's ability to respond to real-time threats. But Traore's decision isn't just about discipline, it's about securing Africa's future against the enemies that would tear it apart. We must understand this. Africa's fight against terrorism and insurgencies isn't a local struggle. This is part of a broader battle for African sovereignty, and leaders like Traore must make tough decisions to ensure their nations remain strong. Dismissing these officers wasn't merely a show of authority, it was a calculated move to protect the integrity of the military. Weak links in leadership during a crisis can be deadly, and Traore knows that Burkina Faso cannot afford such vulnerabilities. He's not only disciplining officers, he's safeguarding the nation's future. However, the critical question remains. Does this type of decisive discipline build a stronger military, or does it create instability? In many African countries, discipline without leadership becomes a hammer with no aim. Strong leadership in Africa isn't just about cracking the whip when things go wrong. True African leadership builds a sense of loyalty, unity, and shared purpose within the ranks. Right now, Burkina Faso's military is engaged in a fight that goes beyond borders. It's fighting a war for African dignity, sovereignty, and survival. Traore understands this, but does his military? Burkina Faso's soldiers aren't just fighting insurgents. They're fighting a well-organized and well-funded force with deep ties to destabilizing foreign interests. In the face of such a threat, African soldiers need more than orders. They need leadership that commands their respect and loyalty, a leadership that makes them feel they are part of something larger than themselves. If Traore's leadership begins to fracture at the top, the military risks falling into confusion, disarray, and ultimately, failure on the battlefield. But let's not overlook one of the most critical components of African leadership: morale. Traore's actions bring up an essential question. Can the military maintain morale if soldiers start questioning their leaders' stability? Soldiers need leaders they can trust, and in Africa, that trust is sacred. When military leaders disappear, whether through dismissal or removal, it sends a wave of uncertainty through the ranks. And in a continent that's been fighting for centuries to shake off the chains of oppression, uncertainty can be more dangerous than any enemy on the battlefield. Traore's crackdown may inspire fear, but fear without purpose weakens loyalty. African soldiers don't fight for punishment. They fight for leaders they believe in, for their families, for their ancestors, for the vision of a free and united Africa. Traore's task isn't just to discipline, it's to inspire. His soldiers need to know that they are led by men who share their struggles, understand their pain, and stand shoulder to shoulder with them in the fight for freedom. And this brings us to the heart of the issue: unity. Burkina Faso's military is already stretched thin, fighting on multiple fronts. Insurgents are targeting Africa's heart, and this is not the time for division or instability within the military ranks. Traore must ensure that his actions don't fracture the military's sense of African solidarity and purpose. In times of crisis, unity is Africa's greatest strength. The African struggle has always thrived on unity, from liberation movements to today's battles against terrorism. Traore's crackdown must strengthen, not weaken, that unity. At the end of the day, a disciplined military is only as effective as its leadership. Africa doesn't just need soldiers who follow orders, it needs leaders who inspire their people to fight for a greater cause. Right now, Burkina Faso's military, and by extension, the African continent, needs leadership that can unify, motivate, and rally the troops around a shared vision. Traore must strike a balance between discipline and inspiration, between authority and empathy. His challenge is to lead by example, to create a military force not just feared by its enemies, but respected by its people. Burkina Faso, and Africa as a whole, is at a turning point. Leaders like Traore have the power to shape the future, not just through military discipline, but through the kind of leadership that unites Africa in its struggle for freedom and prosperity. This is more than a local issue. It's a call for African leadership that transcends borders, a leadership that understands that the future of Burkina Faso is tied to the future of the continent itself. Africa needs leaders who aren't just strong, but visionary. Leaders like Traore can't just wield power, they must inspire a continent. Traore's punishment has raised a few questions, especially about the former president. There are reports from Burkina Faso saying that he has been involved in coup attempts on Traore. So, could Captain Ibrahim Traore bring former President Deba back to Burkina Faso to face justice?
Now, cheering crowds greet the self-declared leader after he and a group of soldiers overthrew President Paul-Henri Deba. It was the West African country's second coup this year.
And more importantly, should he? Deba, now living in exile in Togo, was ousted by Traore in 2022. His downfall was swift, but his influence still lingers. Traore, aware of this, has hinted at the possibility of extraditing Deba to face charges in Burkina Faso. But such a move comes with both potential rewards and serious risks. On the one hand, bringing Deba back could solidify Traore's position as a leader who is committed to holding corrupt officials accountable. It would send a powerful message to the people of Burkina Faso. No one, not even a former president, is above the law. It could also help Traore distance himself from the culture of impunity that has plagued the country's political landscape for years. But on the other hand, extraditing Deba could reignite political tensions. Deba still has supporters within Burkina Faso, and a public trial could give them a platform to voice their dissent. It could also create further instability at a time when the country is already grappling with an insurgency and economic challenges. Moreover, the logistics of extradition are tricky. Togo, which has granted asylum to Deba, may not be eager to hand him over. Diplomatic relations between Burkina Faso and Togo could be strained if Traore pushes too hard for Deba's extradition. And while bringing Deba to trial might score Traore points with some factions, it could alienate others, both domestically and internationally. So, what's the right move? In Traore's shoes, the decision to pursue Deba's extradition is a double-edged sword. If he goes through with it, he must be prepared for the political fallout. If he doesn't, he risks looking weak in the eyes of his supporters. Either way, the decision will have lasting consequences for his presidency. But justice in Burkina Faso isn't just about Deba. It's about the broader issue of accountability and whether the country can move forward without addressing its past. Traore must navigate these political waters carefully, balancing the pursuit of justice with the need for stability. In the end, how important is giving this punishment and justice to Burkina Faso? In a country like Burkina Faso, where the line between military rule and civilian leadership is often blurred, justice plays a crucial role in shaping the political landscape. But how important is it to punish those who have failed the nation? And what does justice look like in a country that has experienced multiple coups, political upheavals, and ongoing insurgencies? Justice in Burkina Faso isn't just about punishing the guilty. It's about sending a message that the days of impunity are over. For too long, leaders in Burkina Faso have come and gone without ever being held accountable for their actions. Corruption, negligence, and incompetence have been allowed to fester, creating a culture of distrust between the government and the people. Traore's focus on justice, both within the military and potentially with the extradition of Deba, is an attempt to break that cycle. But justice must be more than just symbolic. Dismissing negligent military officers and pursuing the extradition of a former president are important steps, but they won't solve the underlying issues facing Burkina Faso. Justice must be accompanied by real, structural reforms that address the root causes of the nation's instability. Without these reforms, justice risks becoming a distraction, a way to placate the public without addressing the deeper problems. There's also the issue of public perception. For many in Burkina Faso, seeing leaders held accountable is a long overdue development. But justice is a double-edged sword. If it's perceived as being politically motivated, more about settling scores than about upholding the law, it could backfire. Traore must ensure that his pursuit of justice is seen as fair and transparent, not as a means of consolidating power. At the same time, justice without stability can be dangerous. Burkina Faso is a country on the edge, grappling with a host of challenges. While holding corrupt leaders accountable is important, it can also lead to further destabilization if not handled carefully. Traore must balance his desire for justice with the need to maintain order and prevent further unrest. Ultimately, justice is important, but it must be part of a broader strategy to bring stability to Burkina Faso. Traore's focus on accountability is commendable, but it won't be enough to solve the country's problems. Justice must be accompanied by reforms that address the root causes of corruption, inequality, and insecurity. We love Captain Ibrahim Traore isn't just a leader, he's a symbol. To many in Burkina Faso, he represents the hope of a new era, one where discipline, accountability, and strength rule the day. But is Traore the strongman leader Burkina Faso needs for the future? Or is he simply another in a long line of military rulers who will eventually fall victim to the same pitfalls? Traore's leadership style is clear. He's decisive, he's willing to make tough calls, and he won't tolerate disloyalty or incompetence. In a country where insurgencies are a constant threat and political stability is fragile, this kind of leadership can be appealing. People want a leader who can keep them safe, who can take charge, and who can impose order. And Traore has certainly demonstrated his willingness to do just that. The coming months will be critical for both Traore and Burkina Faso. His decisions, whether pursuing justice, reforming the military, or consolidating power, will shape the nation's future. Only time will tell if he is the leader who can finally bring lasting stability to Burkina Faso, or if he will be remembered as just another strongman who couldn't deliver on his promises. Do you think Traore can bring change? Will he be the savior of Burkina Faso? Let us know in the comments section. Do you think he is the only leader who can bring change? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.